You're listening to Full Circle Weekly News of the open source community presented by Full Circle Magazine. These articles are compiled by Eric the Unready. I'm your host, Moss Bliss. This is episode 472, covering week 27, June 29th to July 5th, 2026. Slackle 9.0, a distribution built on the foundations of Slackware and Salix projects and fully compatible with their repositories, has been released. Slackle's key distinction is its use of a continuously updated Slackware current branch. The graphical environment is based on the Mate desktop environment. The bootable image, capable of running in live mode, is available for i386 and x86-64. Installation on external USB drives is supported, with the ability to save changes to the same drive and update packages. Mageia 10, a Linux distribution developed by an independent community of enthusiasts, has been released. 32 and 64-bit installer builds and a set of live builds based on GNOME, KDE, and XFCE are available for download. Oracle has published a hotfix release of VirtualBox 7.2.12. The additions for Linux host environments fix an issue that has caused a Linux kernel crash, panicking the kernel, or a system hang when starting a virtual machine. This hang occurs when using VirtualBox 7.2.10 on Debian 13, Arch Linux, Linux Mint, Fedora 44, and other distributions that have the enable_virt_at_load=0 option set when loading the KVM module, which is specified in /etc/modprobe.d/virtualbox.conf or /user/live/virtualbox-dkms.conf. Disable this or unload the KVM_Intel and KVM_AMD kernel modules. Heather Van Cura presented the second phase of an initiative to engage with the community and accelerate MySQL development. While the first phase focused on increasing transparency and involving the community in determining MySQL's development path, the second phase will focus on involving community representatives in development. Goals include accelerating innovation, providing clear paths for change delivery, and expanding the MySQL ecosystem. System 76 has released the Cosmic 1.2.0 desktop environment. Packages for Cosmic 1.2.0 are available in Pop! OS 24.04 and are expected soon in Fedora, NixOS, Arch Linux, OpenSUSE, Aaron OS, Redux, and CachyOS. The code is written in Rust and is licensed under the GPL v3 for applications and MPL 2.0 for libraries. Cosmic's key features include hybrid window tiling and stacked window docking, similar to browser tabs, which can be enabled when linked to virtual desktops. The project is also developing a Wayland-based Cosmic-comp compositing server. Pidgin 2.96, the second alpha release of Pidgin 3.0 instant messaging client, has been released but is not yet ready for everyday use. Builds have been prepared in Flatpak format and are available in the beta repository on FlatHub. Pidgin 3 features the G-Object type system, GTK4 and Adwaita libraries, the Meson build system, G-Plugin for plugin processing, SQLite for storing chat history, and G-Settings for managing settings. Qualcomm has unveiled Qualcomm Linux 2.0, which provides a software stack optimized for the Qualcomm Dragonwing IoT platform. The project provides a unified distribution that enables rapid development of solutions for various Qualcomm SoCs. Qualcomm Linux is based on toolchains and meta packages from the Yocto and Open Embedded projects, supplemented by patches, drivers, firmware packages, and configuration files to support the specific hardware components used in Qualcomm chips. Preciser 0.16.0, a command line utility designed to verify the integrity of large file trees and identify discrepancies after data synchronization, has been released. The project's code is written in C and distributed under the GPL v3 license. Preciser builds were previously available for Linux and Mac OS. The key change is experimental support for Windows. The Preciser project has been in development for over 2 years and is positioned as a small, fast, and convenient CLI utility for tasks where simple file metadata comparison is no longer sufficient. The program traverses a directory tree, calculates file checksums, and stores the information in a SQLite database. Databases created for different data sources can then be compared to obtain a list of missing files, redundant files, and objects with mismatched checksums. The Fedora Project Steering Committee has announced the suspension of the Community Initiatives process, created to implement large, long-term projects within the distribution that do not fit within the 6-month Fedora Linux release cycle. Community Initiatives was intended to focus community efforts on implementing major ideas and to secure necessary resources and support from the steering committee. Projects already launched through the Community Initiatives process will continue to operate with the full support of the steering committee and will be completed as planned. The suspension of community initiatives stemmed from issues related to a lack of proper community feedback arising during the approval process for the Fedora AI Developer Desktop project, which was approved despite significant objections during community discussions. Community members were expected to reach out to the governing board if they had concerns about any upcoming decisions, but in reality, the board was not informed of potential issues and voted without taking community input into account. Criticism was voiced by community representatives in a separate discussion to which governing board members were not invited. Ultimately, board members learned of the objections raised only after the vote. Aaron Cato, the author of the Box 2D project, announced the creation of a new physics simulation engine, Box 3D, with an identical architecture but redesigned and expanded for use in 3D games. The project's code is written in C and is distributed under the MIT license. It supports builds for Linux, Windows, and Mac OS. The Box 3D engine was created during the development of the new 3D shooter The Legend of California by Kitsugayama Studios, where Aaron is working. The game uses the Unreal Engine, but the developers were dissatisfied with its built-in chaos physics engine. Box 2D featured thin objects taking an unnaturally long time to rotate, falling trees were unrealistic, and poor system performance when processing hundreds of thousands of objects. Greg Kroah-Hartman reported that 2,308 vulnerabilities were identified in the Linux kernel in the first 6 months of 2026, each assigned a CVE identifier. This move has pushed the Linux kernel to first place in terms of the number of CVE identifiers assigned among software vendors. This metric is not objective, as most vendors assign CVE identifiers only to serious vulnerabilities, while the Linux kernel considers all potential vulnerabilities, regardless of severity. Ubuntu developers have reverted the GNU Core Utils version of the CP utility after discovering an incompatibility in the Rust Core Utils implementation of CP, which caused the live image build script to fail. In the Ubuntu 26.04 release, the CP, MV, and RM utilities from GNU Core Utils were reverted. However, in recent update to the Core Utils from UUtils 0.0.0 Ubuntu 26 package, the Rust Core Utils suite was reinstated. The issue arose due to a call to the CP utility in a build script with the TICAFL options, which were handled normally by GNU Core Utils but resulted in error code in Rust Core Utils. Arnd Bergman has launched a second attempt to purge the Linux kernel of code to support legacy ARM platforms, which are rarely used and hinder the maintenance of current subsystems. The first attempt was made in August 2024 but stalled, despite the kernel developers agreeing to perform the purge in 2025 or 2026 after the corresponding LTS kernel branches are formed. In the second set of patches, Arnd updated the information and added warnings to configuration files about deprecating platforms. The deprecation of these platforms is proposed for kernel 7.4, expected in early 2027. The BSD-UN project has been published, a development module for the Linux kernel that allows for the recognition, loading, and execution of unmodified ELF executables built for FreeBSD on Linux. It runs in an emulated FreeBSD environment. Essentially, the project is the complete opposite of the FreeBSD Linuxolator. The code is distributed under the GPL v2 Plus license and written using the Claude Code AI assistant. In total, about 250 system calls are implemented. System VIPC, network functions, futexes, syscontrol MIB, PR control, timers, and I/O control are also implemented. A chroot environment on the Linux side is used to separate file systems. However, some utilities can still work without chroot. You've been listening to Full Circle Weekly News. For more details, see the next issue of the magazine at fullcirclemagazine.org or check the links in the show notes. You can contact me at bardmoss@pm.me. I'll be back next week.